Okay, welcome to a Buckeye Review news update. And today I wanted to chat with Samantha Turner, who's the Third Ward City Council person from the city of Youngstown. Welcome, Samantha Turner.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
It's absolutely a pleasure. I'm so glad you were able to come.
Mm-hmm.
Before we start talking about what I really want to talk about, I want to first, introduce you to the audience. So you may know that the Buckeye Review has been around since 1937. Yeah. I haven't been around that long, but the Buckeye Review has, and we're excited about that. Yes. And we have subscribers and readers and followers in 200 cities in 26 states. We're a bit excited about that because people leave this area, Youngstown, Warren, and they travel everywhere, but they want to stay connected here. So they may be watching us from Texas or from LA or from Youngstown. Yes. But if they've been away for a minute, they may not know that the Third Ward City Council person is Samantha Turner. So tell them let's talk about who Samantha Turner is.
Well, I'm a born and raised Northside resident. Graduated from the Rand in 2003, the last of my family to graduate from Rand. My grandparents graduated, my parents, my siblings, all of my aunts and uncles.
From the Rand school?
From the Rand school.
You're like the Rand royalty.
Yes, yes. I like to say that. Yes, I am the Rand royalty. I went away after college. Well, after high school, I went to university at the University of Florida. Go Gators. And lived in Florida for a while, and then I moved back home to help out my mom and to just experience my family as an adult. And along the way, I started providing service and volunteering, and I kind of got out in the community, and here I am, the city council person for the Third Ward.
Well, I'm happy to say that I live in the Third Ward on the north side, so you're my council person. So if anybody was wondering, why would I have the Third Ward before the first or second? It's because she's my councilor.
Yes.
But we are open to hearing from all of the ward people, the mayor, also Warren and other people that serve the community. So I want to say thank you for the public service that you give to the community, because I know being in public office is a big deal.
It is.
You give of yourself, of your life, of your time. I mean, you went to school, you could work and do other stuff too, but you also serve the community, answer phone calls, talk about, you get phone calls about who picked up the trash.
Yes. The trash was late this week. I fielded a lot of phone calls about the trash being late.
Right.
But they were like, well, we'll be there tomorrow first thing. So
so that was good though. But I wanted to make sure, that I give you the accolades for the additional service beyond your service above self that you give to your job or to other places in the community, because technically you're a city father, mother, city leader, right? So you sit at the gate. And there's a lot of money that comes through, a lot of responsibility, a lot of decisions that must be made. And so I wanted to affirm you for that, because I know a lot of people, look up to it. Some people look down, they throw rocks, but I know it's a lot of work. So
thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So, I wanted to talk about the when you came into your office.
Yes.
So how long have you been in office?
So I came into office in January of 2020. Hot off the press, really excited. That was a great year, an interesting year. It was my deciding that I was going to focus firmly on council, kind of learn this job. So I stopped working my previous job and just really delved into what council had to offer. And then, bam, pandemic hit.
You came in right with the bang, huh?
Yes, right with the bang. And it was really an interesting time. I'm a person that likes to know process, and I pride myself on building relationships. And that was during a time where I couldn't build relationships with people because, of course, we were at home, and I had to just trust that this is the process just by hearing it over the phone or talking about it over Zoom. So that was a hard 9 to 10 months to just kind of getting started. And I feel like that it was just a little bit of dead air just because we weren't in person. And I think that was hard on working with my colleagues because we didn't have time to get together and spend time together. And so the pandemic really, it didn't just hurt the community economically, it hurt a growth process that I think that we all kind of go through during transitional periods in our lives. So that same year, I became the first African American president of the Youngstown Rotary Club, and I was having our weekly meetings to 5 of the greatest people in our club of 85 people. I was having meetings, and 5 of the greatest people in the city were showing up every Wednesday, and we met. We didn't miss a beat. We kept meeting. We just kept being safe, and that helped me get through the pandemic. In addition to the phone calls, I was highly engaged in my neighborhood group before I became a council person. So there was a level of information that I knew, and a level of things I knew to expect, the type of phone calls I knew I was going to get. So I started figuring out those processes one by one. How do I accomplish goals?
So beyond the learning curve of being thrust in during COVID, what was the other things that you thought that was most important to accomplish, as a city council person?
In that first year, it really was getting to know the gatekeepers. Getting to know, because one thing that I always say is no matter what we do, our time is short. It can be 4 years, it can be 8 years. You might be lucky and get 12. Right? But after that, things transition, people transition. But we have people working in the city that have been there for 30 years. They've been there for 40 years. Some are there 10 years, and they have more staying power than we do. And they are going to keep those initiatives going forward. They're going to keep work going forward. That's the historic knowledge base. So those are the people that you want to know and you want to talk to, and you want to be able to build relationships with, because you're trying to work through an understanding. They know how to get things done better than even department heads, because department heads come in with the mayor and sometimes go out with the mayor. So that was one of the most important things that I felt that I needed to do, and that was really to get to know gatekeepers and department heads alike, so that I could really begin to affect change across my community. So
you left your full-time job and really became a full-time council person.
Yes, it is a full-time job, I must say. Doing it right, it's a full-time.
Well,
and let me saying doing it right, doing it to the degree that the community expects, it makes it a full-time job.
So the community expects you there all the time.
They expect you.
But your pay is not really a full-time pay, is it?
Right.
And so most city council people have a full-time job beyond their city council duties.
Yes.
So I just wanted to say that, because that's a huge sacrifice.
Yes. I'm not an anomaly. I mean, we have some that are retired and some that work part-time. And then there's some that work full-time. I was able to order my steps in a way where I didn't have, large bills and large amounts of debt. So I was able to function and live within my means and what the salary that pays us for city council.
Awesome.
Ordering steps is a big thing.
For
me.
Your steps are ordered. I appreciate that. I hear a song. I hear a Bible verse coming over here. And so the other reason I want to talk to you is because it's in the news, and it happened on your watch that the American Rescue Plan, was passed by Congress, and money is flushed to the states. Ohio, $5.9 billion. The city of Youngstown, $88 million. And that's been in the news for a while, but now we're coming to the place where now that money is getting ready to be spent. So I wanted you to talk about a little bit. I know that each of the 7 wards were allocated $2 million.
Yes.
So that's sort of almost like a discretionary for the ward. I mean, you set the priorities. What do people do, but you oversee the priorities in your ward for that $2 million. I mean, there's a lot more money out there, but as a ward council person,
you set those.
So I want you to talk a little bit about the city's priorities and what yours are.
Okay. So the American Rescue Plan Act is this very large, far-reaching plan for communities to build themselves back up. And this large pots of money that we were given is for us to do large projects, infrastructure projects that we would never be able to do no matter how good our economic development is.
Okay.
So when they talk about those American Rescue Plan dollars, we're talking about water, sewer, wastewater, those type of things, lead pipe, lead abatement, those things are massive undertaking, especially for cities like Youngstown, our old steel cities along the Rust Belt.
Right.
So those are huge projects that the city does. And this is how I see it. My purview is that we've allocated this now $2 million to the wards for us to do smaller, impactful things inside of our neighborhoods.
Okay.
Because we can't ask the administration to do little things in our neighborhoods and the big things and manage the big process.
Okay.
You know, with getting over $80 million, that is a lot of infrastructure that needs to be put in place to ensure that things are done properly and done correctly. So each ward has, I don't want to say it's their prerogative. It is in the parameters of what the bill allows.
Okay.
And there is space for you to make an argument for something that you think is going to be impactful and it also is sustainable. So we don't want to make huge sacrifices or spend pots of money that we can't sustain. This money is short-lived. We'll have it for, at this point, 2 years, two more years, and it's a use it. I don't know if it's a use it or lose it situation, but we have it while we have this current president in office. So we want to make sure that we do that right. The administration is having they have an ARP committee where they're reviewing well over 50 applications, and I'm saying 50 because that's a better number than saying 100 applications.
Okay.
But they're reviewing these applications, and these applications have come from inside of the city. So there are applications from the police department and the health department and economic development, and then that's outside of the city structure. So there are neighborhood groups like YNDC, like CDCs like YNDC, or Cityscape, or BNOY, or United Returning Citizens. They've all put in to do something impactful in the city for some of these ARP dollars. So that's the higher reaching work that's being done from the administration. And on that committee, you have the entire cabinet, along with 2 council people, and then the local foundations who know how to distribute money into the community. So that's how it's going from the high end. So
I remember the mayor talking about this is a legacy opportunity.
Yes.
And you're right. I mean, he was right. And you're saying that this money is a one-time infusion of cash, so we should do something that's going to last.
Right.
Do you feel like, based on the decisions and the priorities that you see thus far, that it's moving in that direction as far as, legacy or sustainability?
Based on the decisions that have been made thus far, there has not been a lot of legacy projects brought forward. And that really is because as a city, we have to come alongside it with our resources.
Sure.
We have to have, if you're going to start a project, it's not just we got the money, let's start it. We also have to know how are we going to sustain it.
Right.
And if we're looking at the economic state of our current city, if we're looking at our tax base, if we're looking at our economic development, we have to be very strategic about how we spend these dollars and what we invest in, because we don't have a positive outlook for tax base year over year. We don't have a positive outlook. We don't have a positive track record for consistent economic development year over year. So for us to spend, $4 or $5 million on a project that is only going to last for this presidency, and once we're done with it, then it's over, or we have to kind of shutter it or see if we can maintain it. It's a level of mediocrity I think we can't afford.
Oh, I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned infrastructure, but then wasn't there an additional, administration infusion of cash called the infrastructure bill?
So there's infrastructure that's coming down, and we'll have to apply for those infrastructure dollars.
Okay.
And so, yes, there's more coming to help with infrastructure. And that's a good thing, because this is really the cornerstone of this presidency, is to really rebuild America. And that's very helpful. So as long as we don't leave any money on the table and we are strategic about the money we spend, I think that Youngstown's going to look a lot different in the next 5 to 10 years.
And so I remember reading that the money needed to be at least committed by December 2024 and spent by December 2026.
Yes.
Right. So there's still a little bit of time, but when you think about if it's a project that's going to be sustainable, it's sort of like bringing on a new person on a payroll, and then you got to fire them in 3 years because you can't keep them. That's problematic.
That's problematic.
Okay.
Yes. For me, hiring staff, maybe a contractor that has a timeline, but hiring staff that's a hard thing to do. Purchasing buildings, that's a hard thing to do. Something that we're having trouble with sustaining now. At this point, we have given a lot of raises across we're trying to get our wage rate to be more competitive. And it still has a ways to go, but it's much more competitive than it has been in a number of years. Now, with us doing that means that we can't really go out and hire a lot more people because we're spending more dollars, but we don't have more dollars coming in. And
so talk about the cities, from, I guess, the city's still sort of shrinking, right?
Yes. Well, the city is readjusting itself for the space that it's in.
Okay, right sizing.
Yes, it's getting to the right. It's deciding this is how I want to. It's nestling itself in, shrinking.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't want to say that it's shrinking, but because our footprint has not shrunk.
Okay.
Our population is shifting around, especially around Ohio, and we definitely have to work on that.
Okay, so talk about the third ward.
Yes.
What's the size, demographics, maybe dimensions or borders?
Our third ward, we just redrew the lines, and at this next coming election cycle, it'll be back mainly just the north side. Okay. So we're going from Gypsy Lane down to down to Madison Avenue, from Logan all the way over to West Federal Street, which is also MLK Boulevard.
Okay.
So we're in that. We have about 10,000 people inside of our ward. Okay. And we're flanked with some of the bigger county, and I'll say county employers like Mercy Health. We have Phantom Fireworks. We also we did have Northside. Northside Hospital I was on the tip of my tongue, but we've lost Northside Hospital. And then of course we're backed up to YSU. Okay. So a lot of that's kind of surrounding the third ward.
So your priorities for your $2 million.
Yes.
You have any thoughts about that?
Yes, I have a lot of thoughts about that. I'm trying to.
Is the tennis court in that? Never mind. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it is. It is.
That's a little selfish on my part, but.
Well, we have something that's a real gem in the third ward, and that's our parks. We definitely, between the hospital and Park Vista, YSU, we have Wick Park, right? And at Wick Park, straight up, you have Crandall Park, you have the golf course. You come over, you have the pool. You come back down, you actually have Todd Recreation, which is also a part of Crandall Park. And we have Eugenia Atkinson and Chase Park. Well, that's where, of course, the pool used to be and where Westlake Terrace was, or Westlake Village. So this we have all of these really great things that can anchor communities, anchor neighborhoods, and help improve property value and help improve quality of life. So a lot of the resources I would like to put in improving that walkability to those parks, walkability to those spaces like the golf course, like the pool, and then of course our neighborhood groups. We have about 9 on the north side of Youngstown, and on any given month I'm at about 6 different meetings, and then of course our monthly third ward meeting. So those groups have really helped hold the north side up during all of the good times and all the bad times. So I want to be able to put dollars in place so that they can get help in all of these pocket parks. Almost every vacant corner I have on the north side or in the third ward, a neighborhood group is taking care of it. And that means they're cutting the grass, they have landscaping there, and they don't own this land, they're leasing it. So some dollars to help them just to do the things they haven't been able to do. Cut down some trees, put in some fresh landscaping, fresh rocks, fresh mulch, those things, and we have about 10 pocket parks that need a full revamping. And again, those are done by Love Your Neighbor, Know Your Neighbor, Crandall Park South, Crandall Park North. Those neighborhood groups are taking care of those pocket parks. So I want to make sure that them and all the other neighborhood groups have some additional support in the work that they're doing. The next is, again, improving walkability, working on a sidewalk plan for us to replace sidewalks or repair them, replace where it's needed, but repair where we absolutely can. And that's just grinding them down, sealing up, cleaning them up, and clearing that so that families can walk. You can walk from your house to the store. You can walk to the park. You can walk, up the road. You can get to the main thoroughfares where the bus lines are. So that's Fifth Avenue and Belmont or Wirt. Those are the good things we want to be able to do with that. And then, of course, I would like to invest the last large considerable amount in the beautification of Belmont Avenue. So I think that Belmont has a lot of potential, and I can't wait to see what happens, how the city begins to work through their housing strategy. But from the beginning, I would like to just beautify from Gypsy Lane to West Boulevard, to the westbound service road, and that is really just have cohesive landscaping, ensure that the signage is all cohesive, lighting is changed, and everything. When you come down the corridor, you feel like you've entered a neighborhood.
Tell me what you would say is your biggest success story since you've been in office, or something you're proud of you want people to know about.
One thing that I'm proud of is I'm proud to have my third ward meetings. So there's some things legislatively that I've done, and those have been out of necessity, and I'm proud anytime that I can do that for my community. But the third ward meetings are so important because people do think that we're like the emperor of the city, which we definitely are not.
You're the emperor.
The emperor. So I have to call someone to do it, to do a job. If you want a tree down, I got to call. If you want a street paved, you want a whole patch, I got to call someone. And,
I mean, you can't wave a wand
and I can't. I don't have a bucket truck. Those are the. And realizing people were hungry for that information. They were hungry for knowing when they were hitting a wall. And so having these, I plan to start them in April of 2020, at the end of the first quarter. I was like, I'm going through my first budget cycle, and I'm going to start having these meetings. And nope, of course, COVID slowed that down. So once it let up, that was last June, we were able to start meeting in numbers. I went ahead and had these meetings so that I could bring together the community and the administration, because whether we like it or not, there is separation of government. There's executive, there's legislative, there's judicial. So bringing in letting them know that your executive branch functions, they do the work. They ask us for the resources to do the work.
Right.
We edit the laws, we bring laws forward. The judicial branch.
I'm glad you said that. I have my grandkids here for while my oldest grandson is 13. So I'm trying to explain government to him. I want him to get interested in it,
Yes,
you know.
yes.
And I remember doing the 3 levels, and
Yes.
you see the 3 levels everywhere.
Right.
But the fact that the levels balance each other, right? City council holds the purse strings,
Right.
but administration executes it. And of course, we have the judicial, and we've had some issues with, crime. I think crime has happened with cities. It's post-COVID, and I don't know what, how to put our finger on it. I know that the administration has been wrestling. The administration hired a new police chief.
Yes.
And things changed a little bit. I'm not sure how that change is working. What would you say as far as your perspective on the crime and the attacking of it, or the administration's approach to it?
So for anyone that's been a victim, and by victim I mean someone that your family has been a victim of a violent crime, you've been a victim of violent crime, your neighbor, if that has experienced it, can say, we're not doing enough, right? We're not being aggressive enough. And do I think we can be more aggressive? Yes. Do I think we can help facilitate more? Yes. Because the administration, I think, on our new police chief, Chief Davis, he is amazing. He is well loved, and he's definitely adding a different balance and a softness that I think that the police department needed, a more personal feel that the police department needed, especially coming out of the situations that we've had in the police culture. So he's definitely added this more personal connection to our local police department. But I do think that we could be doing more in the way of outreach, more in the way of connecting our police to our communities. We've started that back up with our community policing department, but I think we really should be doing that even more across the entire department.
I agree with you, and I have 2 more questions, and maybe the police one is, maybe it's not necessarily fair. I mean, you have a perspective, but I know that the CR community investment reinvest.
Yes.
The initiative to reduce violence. With Guy Burney, that's a really it's an innovative program that makes a difference. Has that program been expanded under?
Yes.
Or how has it? Because it seems like they're in touch on the ground with folks.
Yes.
And there needs to be more folks that are really up close and personal. Boots on the ground with people that are, that need attention. I mean, I shared with someone, I remember, people trying to throw rocks at the administration for not doing enough. But look, we got, 60,000, 65,000 people, right?
Yes.
Some of them are doing really, really well. Some of them are really struggling. And the way they looked at the CRIRV program is that they kind of pay attention to the ones that are struggling and can kind of get in their face a little bit. And so if that can be expanded, more boots on the ground, then I think that can fix some things. I don't know if that's happening, or should I talk to the mayor about that?
Well, that is, you can definitely give more information from the mayor, but they did request to expand this department.
Okay.
And the department, this department is housed now underneath the mayor. And they're
not underneath police chief anymore.
So it shifted this past year.
Oh, okay.
During this past budget cycle,
okay.
It shifted underneath the mayor, and he have expanded their offerings because they are working with interrupting violence. They can,
right.
And it's more a high level teaching conflict resolution, doing victim assessment and help, those type of connecting people with counseling, empowering women. All of those type of things to really help the root of how violence comes to be. But then they're also partnering with organizations that are doing mentoring work.
Sure.
So that mentoring work, starting at the youngest ages that we can get it, helps as well.
Sure.
So I think that the work that Serve is doing, it really is they're doing this much work, and they really could be doing this much work. Honestly, we have a captive audience.
Everything I hear about Serve is like, really, we should really expand it by 10 times, and we could make that much more impact because much of the crime is predictable.
Yes.
And if it's predictable, it's preventable.
And
we don't want
why is it predictable? How do we predict crime? We predict high crime rates because of the socioeconomic status, zip codes that you live in, high school diplomas.
Exactly.
I mean, though these are factors and these are details. This is data that we have, and we can start beginning to use that data in pinpointing, getting into our school systems and working hard at a young age, but also coming alongside like Serve does in working with parents and working with teenagers on conflict resolution, working with parents on becoming homeowners and bringing them out of social services. Those are the type of things that we are not doing all cohesively. Like there's one program going on, but then we're not mentoring up. We can't just mentor a parent. We have to mentor the child. We have to mentor the kid that's in the middle. And sometimes we got to hold the grandparent's hand too. This is why we are in the state that we're in. Right.
Well, you've given us a lot to think about. Before I let you go, though, I do want to get your opinion on a recent, I guess there was a not a resolution, but a petition to limit, terms of council people. I'm going to guess you're probably not in favor of that necessarily. I don't know. You don't have to. You don't have to answer.
You asked. I thought I had to come here and answer all the questions.
All right.
So I would say.
But before you answer, it was just changed recently. Recently to say you can have unlimited terms.
Yes.
And so now within a few minutes.
So a few minutes.
Right, you've been in office for like 2 years.
Yes.
And now it is this thing, okay, we want you out right away.
Right.
So I want your perspective on,
So, I mean, honestly, I am fine with term limits.
Okay.
And I have no fear in this. Sure. I don't have, and I wouldn't be affected at this point. I still would be able to run for my second term, but I do think that there's something to be said about some cohesiveness in government. But does that look like 8 years? Does it look like 12 years? Does it look like 16 years? At what point are you held accountable for what you say on the stump?
Right.
At what point are you going to show us exactly what you mean when you say you're going to do X, Y, and Z? Right. At what point is the change going to come forward?
Okay.
And I think that people have term limits if we show up. We have to show up to the polls on a very consistent basis. And that's the number one thing. That's the problem, that we're in all of this right now, and every mess you can think of, because we are not showing up consistently to the polls.
Well, I think that's a good final word.
Yeah.
Because while we certainly appreciate the conversation with our third ward council person, Samantha Turner, but she's also encouraging us all to vote.
That's right.
And there was recently, you'll see it on our Facebook page or on our social media, a very comprehensive overview of voting, redistricting, and how we're called to action to engage in the voting process.
Right.
So while you said it, I'm saying it, others are saying it, we want to encourage all of our listeners, all adults that are eligible to vote in every election.
In every election.
There's no such thing as an off election. It's always important. And of course, if you have an opportunity and you live in the third ward to vote for Samantha Turner, I want you to make sure you do that. Yes. Thanks so much, Samantha.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you so much to our audience. Buckeye Review, we are here to serve you. We're going to try to give you an update at least weekly. The goal, obviously, is to expand our territory and our staff so we can do this really daily, and we will very soon. But in the meantime, make sure you vote, make sure you love on your neighbors, because we're called to love one another. My name is Dr. Mike McNair. See you next time.